Welcome to Yoga and Meditation with Alisa. And today we're going to do a Yin Yoga sequence that focuses on Ayurveda, actually the doshas of Ayurveda. That could be your constitutional dosha or the season. And today's focus is on Vata Kapha. Go get your props. We'll talk more about it when you come back. So as promised, we are going to do a brief Yin Yoga sequence for the Vata Kapha Dosha. That could be your own unique internal constitutional, or it could be the season. And Vata Kapha is the winter season. What are we going to be doing? We're going to be working on our hips, our back bends, and we're going to be doing inversion forward bend. So the first pose we're going to do in this sequence is called up Swan in Yin Yoga, but Hatha Yoga refers to it as pigeon. The easiest way I know is to come onto all fours and to then take your right knee, your right leg, move it towards your right wrist, and then sneak that right foot between the left wrist and knee. And then you just kind of walk your leg back and you're in what we call up Swan. Now I like to use props. Go ahead and get in the posture. I've started the time. We're going to do each one of these postures for 3 minutes today. Later on your own, if you want to extend this, you can. You could make it 4 minutes per posture. But we're going to be working on the hip flexor here. So you might be able to do this without a prop. I tend to like to have 2 blocks. I can really get into my left hip flexor. That is, go from your hip bone and go down into your thigh. And that's your hip flexor area. So we're working on the hips when we do up Swan, the hip flexor. We're also simultaneously, the target area besides the hip flexor is the lumbar spine. So you have that sweet natural arch in the lower back. So the props here help me, but depending on your body type, and the way your hip muscle or your hip socket is structured in your personal skeletal system, you may be able to do this different than me. You might be able to actually place your hands on the ground. As you can see, my body structure, I can't place my hands on the ground. I fall out of the posture. You also, speaking of which, where your weight is centered in this posture, in this pose, allows you to feel it in the target area differently. So I encourage you to play around in the posture. Notice any micro adjustments you might do with the weight. Bringing your weight more towards the left hip will allow you to feel, allows me to feel it in my left hip flexor more. If I go more towards my right hip, it actually moves into my right glute. So we're aiming for the target area here to not only be the lower back, but the left hip flexor. Also, you might want to have your leg further out to the side, or it could be tucked in. It really doesn't matter. It's what helps you feel the posture in the target area the best way for your unique body type. We probably have 2 more breaths here. There is some balancing here. I mean, I'm pressing up into this posture with my hands, so it's a yin with some yang to it. All right, that was 3 minutes. We're going to really carefully come out by bringing ourselves back up into all fours. And then you guessed it, we're going to do it on the opposite side. So I'm going to bring my left knee to my left wrist. I'm gonna sneak my foot through, and then I'm gonna inch my right foot back until I get into the posture. I've started the timer, so get into the posture for you. As you can see here, I'm not switching sides, so you can see what it looks like when you're looking at the externally rotated front leg. So the front leg is externally rotated and the back leg is straight. And so my hip flexor now on the right side is where the target area is in this up swan. I can sense a big difference between my left side and right side. Can you? This feels very different for me. I can actually bring my left leg more into an angle as opposed to sitting on my heel. It's easier for me to feel this in my right hip flexor. On the left side, it took a lot of pressing for me onto my right hip in order for me to really feel the hip flexor. But my bones are just set up differently on this side. So I can feel this posture with not quite as much. So the fun thing about these yoga blocks is that you can set how high of a prop they are. You can have them super high, you can have them lower, right? Even lower. There's 3 different ways to use them. If I bring it lower on this, I'm still getting a nice stress and stretch in my right hip flexor. Of course, continual through this is feeling the lumbar spine. I'm pressing up, but not quite as much because the blocks are lower. If you don't have blocks, you could use a couple of thick, sturdy books, but they need to be the same size. Or you could use a bolster. Let's see what it's like with a bolster. If you have a bolster instead or a bigger cushion. You need for it to be symmetrical on the right and left side for whatever prop you're using for your hands on this. Again, some of you don't need a prop at all. You can do this just with your hands on the ground, but I cannot. I mean, I can do it better on this side than I could on the other. Better is subjective. I mean, what's better? Easier without a prop, but props make every pose possible. So I love props, and Yin Yoga loves props too. Last exhale. Okay. So we're gonna come right out of this sweetly. You can just come to the side because we're not gonna do swan anymore. But the next posture we're going to do is going to be on our hamstrings, and it's gonna be a forward bend, but it's going to be a forward bend that's an inversion. Okay, so one way you can do it, and I'm going to show you this, is if you had a wall handy or a closed door, you could come into a squat. I'm actually on my toes in this squat here. I don't have my heels down. And I'm going to lift my tailbone so that I have my buttocks against the wall. And I'm about a good 1.5 feet. My heels are a good 1.5 feet away. I'm going to widen my legs a little bit, but I'm away from the wall. My feet are by a good 1.5 feet. I'm gradually going to try to straighten my knees and then let my head dangle. I am going to now, for the duration of this, do it another way. So you can do the inversion where your head is dangling. If that's too intense for you, then come onto your back. Bring your buttocks again towards the wall or a door. And let your legs be up against the wall. Okay? Either of those work. Your knees do not have to be straight for either stretch. It's a little bit easier to do it against the wall to have your legs straighter. This is targeting the hamstring. This is a variation of a pose called caterpillar, and they're both inversions, which we want to do inversions during Vata Kapha season. Or if your constitutional is Vata Kapha, inversions are good. It actually helps balance the Vata part of your dosha. So this is a simple inversion where you're getting the benefit of the inversion, but your head is not below your heart. And some people find this to be more comfortable. For the standing inversion that I showed earlier that you can do, we call it dangle in Yin Yoga, and you do it really letting the weight of your butt be against the wall, and it doesn't matter how straight your knees are because you'll feel it right away in your hamstrings, but your head is now below your heart. And some people, when they come out of that posture, they feel very dizzy or they can't be in it very long. If you have low blood pressure, you might want to check with your provider before you do any inversion where your head is below your heart. But doing it against the wall here, you get the benefit of the inversion without that other potential impact. Some people even get headaches. Talk to your doctor about that before you do it. But an inversion is having the blood flowing in the opposite direction. And so that's what we're doing. Paying attention to how you're breathing. Again, I said we were doing each one of these postures for 3 minutes. Easily, if you were doing the dangle against the wall, you could cut that down to 2. How close your buttocks is to the wall will impact how intense the stretch or stress is. You may be here and say, I'm not really feeling much of anything. You're still getting the inversion. The blood is circulating. We don't walk around on our hands, so you're getting that switching of the flow. Energetically, it's a good thing. Remember, during the Vata Kapha season, we're doing back bends, and we're working on our hip flexors. We're also doing forward bends that work on our hamstrings, as well as inversions. And this sequence has all of that. From here, you can just come over onto your side and close your eyes and hang out. If you were against the wall, you'd want to come down onto your knees and then come onto the floor. Don't come standing, rushing your head back up. You want to be gentle. Let's just take 4 more breaths here and notice the impact of the yoga on our bodies. This is another way of taking the rebound. You don't always have to lay on your back to get into Shavasana. This is actually this kind of side fetal position is a very grounding and comfortable way to do it, and it's perfect for the Vata dosha. Take 2 more breaths here. Again, noticing sensation in the body, allowing yourself to feel the movement of energy, the afterglow of the yoga. How did the yoga impact your body? All right, last exhale out. Take your arms and press your palms into the ground, allowing you to come up. We're going to be sitting upright. You're going to notice that might feel different because we were in an inversion. Even with your legs against the wall, it's going to feel a little different. Eyes are closed, still processing the shifts in the body. Take a deep inhale and exhale, balancing Vata Kapha, grounding. Bring your hands into prayer. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate all of your support
on my YouTube channel, and enjoy the rest of your evening or your day. See you next time.